All right, looks like it has slowed a little bit on the trickling in, so we can go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for attending today. I'll introduce myself first, and I'll pass it off to the panelists so they can introduce themselves. My name's Alec Johnson. I'm the Solution Engineer, Head of Industry here at Ekos. I've been with Ekos for 6 years now, and kind of done everything at the company from support to sales to the role I'm in now, and excited to be hosting this webinar. And I will pass it over to Thomas for a little bio on him and his cidery.
Perfect. Thank you, Alec. My name is Thomas Wilson. I am the current owner with my wife, Nicole, and the cider maker at Spirit Tree Estate Cidery. We're here in Ontario, Canada. So we are just outside Toronto, just to the northwest of Toronto, which is actually considered the GTA, so just the greater Toronto area. Our cidery is on a farm. We actually have 50 acres farm here, of which there is 9 acres of high density orchard, including one research block, which is a research block of cider apples. We have a full facility where we press our juice, fermentation cellar. So we have an underground cellar for our fermentation and production of our products, as well as a small bistro restaurant and retail outlet for our ciders, of course, as well as other actually local food products. I'm actually the past president of Ontario Craft Cider, and I'm currently the president of Ontario Farm Fresh Marketing.
Awesome, thanks. We'll pass it to Jaron next.
My name's Jaron Snowman. I'm a California winemaker turned cider maker up here in Shoreham, Vermont area. Work for Champlain Orchards. It's primarily a fresh fruit business, but it has a cidery, a pressing facility, a bakery, a little bit of everything. Seasonal pick your own business. And we grow, I think it's 120 apples plus on over 350 acres, 40 acres of cider apples, which was one of the things that attracted me out here. That's it. We produce about 40,000 gallons a year, so 100% orchard based, with the emphasis on varietal ciders.
Awesome, thanks, Jaron. And for the final introduction, we'll pass it over to Leif.
Hi, I'm Leif Stevens with Noble Cider. I'm one of the founders, and I'm the production manager here. We started in 2012, very, very small, and have grown to, we do about 100,000 gallons a year now. We have an orchard that we have a relationship with, where we formed a juicing company. So we do have a cider varietal orchard and a juicing company. And yeah, we have 2 tap rooms and until COVID, a restaurant. See what happens with that. But yeah, it's kind of what we do.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate all 3 of you guys joining the panel today. And if any of the attendees do have any questions that they'd like to pose to the panel, please put that in the Q&A and we can get to it as well. But we'll start off by throwing a question over to Thomas. So what have been your primary sales channels, and how did that shift in 2020?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. We actually were kind of split 3 ways. We had our retail sales, which has always been a priority for us, with cider being such a new category. We started in 2009, and we opened our cidery. And so from day one, we knew as cider was an infant beverage in North America, we needed a facility that would highlight that and sell that right here. So we have our retail channel here. And then, of course, we have our second channel, which is the licensees and bars, bar restaurants. And we focused on that mostly in the Toronto area. Of course, huge market, 7 million people. We have sent some across Canada, but that's much harder. So we've really focused on the GTA. The third channel was LCBO. So here in Canada, we have much more regulated alcohol industry, unfortunately. So every province strictly controls alcohol distribution. So the LCBO is the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. So you have to sell to the province, and they have their stores that sell the cider. And so that's been our third one. When COVID hit, unfortunately, pretty well instantaneously, we lost all our licensee sales. And because unfortunately, Toronto is one of the focal points of the COVID outbreak here in Canada. And unfortunately, the region I'm in, which is just to the northwest, it's called Peel Region, is actually one of the hotspots of Canada. We, sadly to say, we account for half of all Canadian infections. We're sort of like California. This region accounts for half of all Canadian infections right now, but it's getting under control. But it meant our licensee sales, all the bars, restaurants closed, gone. Our LCBO sales sadly decreased as well because they were struggling with distribution. But ironically, our retail sales is what saved us. Our retail sales have been just nuts. Once we realized the store could stay open, even during lockdowns, we kept doing that. We actually had to make renovations in the summer to expand the size of the store to allow for social distance shopping. And the store is doing 100% sales growth, which is basically saving our company because we've lost 60% of our business, but the store's picking up a lot of that slack.
It's been amazing to see how companies have pivoted during 2020, things you never thought would you have to do, and you end up doing it, and it becomes a big part of your business. So
we did a hard pivot. I mean, literally, I could put it on the wall. We pivoted hard in July when we did the big reno.
Yep. Survive and advance. That's kind of the name of the game for everybody. All right, we'll go to the next question. This one's for Leaf. Do you self-distribute or do you use a distributor? And how does this affect your sales and marketing strategy?
Well, we started off self-distributing. We were very small when we started, and it was a very different time too. It was a time when a lot of people didn't even really know what cider was. So there was a lot of going to bars and restaurants and actually educating people on what cider was before they would even think about taking a cider, or even encouraging people to have a single cider tap was a big deal. And all we were doing was kegs at the time. So it was really important that, we live in a state, luckily, North Carolina, that allows you to self-distribute. So it was really a helpful thing for us to start that way. And I mean, there's a number of advantages to self-distributing. It's a good way to kind of get to know your market. And it's much more profitable to self-distribute. And eventually we started doing bottles and cans, bottles to begin with. And at that point, we knew we needed to get a distributor. But having, a few hundred accounts in the area that had us on tap made it really easy to get a distributor. So then the big advantage, I think, of having a distributor is you can get into the package stores, the chain stores, which you can't really as a self-distributor, at least in our area. So when we moved much more into package, it just made sense to self-distribute. Plus, we didn't really have time to be taking kegs around in our cars anymore. But it is a big shift to move from self-distributing to having distributors, because now we have 7 or 8 distributors. And you still have to do sales, but you're not doing direct sales anymore. It's now we're brand ambassadors, and but it's still the same thing. Going to bars and restaurants and trying it with them. It's just that we don't take it to them. There's this middleman, and it's an interesting negotiating and interesting relationship, because you do have to go through these other companies, and some of them, our experience is that some of them are really excellent at getting products to customers once you've sold them things, and others are not so good at it. So it's a definitely. I see other people smiling. Distributors, I could talk all day about distributors, but yeah, it's definitely a shift moving from self-distributing to using distributors. And each state is different too. So when you move outside of your local area, learning the laws of each state and the differences is quite an educational experience.
It amazes me that the state difference. I live just across the state line in South Carolina from North Carolina, and you have to go through a distributor only in South Carolina. So a brewery in my neighborhood, there's a pizza place 2 doors down. He can't sell it to them unless he sells it to the distributor and takes it back. So it's crazy how the state by state works.
Yeah.
Actually have a question come in for you, Leaf. They asked, why did you start with kegs only? They're in the Netherlands, and we're still educating the customer on cider, and he has the feeling that with kegs only, it makes it more difficult to reach the public. COVID regulations and closed bars aside.
Yeah, I mean, part of it has to do with where we are. We're in Asheville, North Carolina, and it's a huge beer city. There's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of breweries, and so there's very much this tourism thing of people coming to the city to try lots of beers, and it just seemed like a better approach to get on tap at places for us to begin with. Plus, we didn't have we were in a really little space to begin with. It was like a 700 square foot little warehouse, and we just didn't have room for a bottling line. It was the way we started really small. We were ordering like 2 or 3 kegs at a time from places, and delivering them in our cars. We're quite a bit bigger now. We're in a 10,000 square foot space, and so it's quite a change from that. But that was really the thinking, was just to be part of that, tourism, ecotourism thing in this area.
Yep, awesome. And we had another question kind of come off that, where they mentioned you start off in kegs. They personally love draft cider and think it's the best form, but want to sell in cans to seed the product with consumers and get word of mouth to move more quicker. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they're different markets. I mean, if I could just do draft, I would, because the margin's much better for us. If you're doing specialty kind of 750s, the margins on those are better. But if you're doing, like, we do 4-packs generally, we can't make it work economically to do 6-packs. Just the way we make cider is too expensive. But the margins are much smaller on package sales than they are on draft sales. So that's definitely a part of it. Figuring that out in the beginning. I like draft. I think it's a good way of experiencing product. I really like bottles. I don't love cans as much, but that seems to be the way the market has gone. We've actually switched most of our products to cans at this point, except for some 750s.
Awesome. All right. Well, this one's for Jaron. How has e-commerce become a part of your overall strategy?
Well, we're, as a company, fairly new to e-commerce. We actually just launched back in November. So we're still learning. We launched our first Google ad paid campaign over the holidays with mixed results. We launched both a fresh apple box and cider, to basically using Vino Shipper. That really allowed us to expand beyond our territory in New England. We're still, as I said, trying to figure it out. We're relying mostly on social media to kind of keep it fresh in the consumer's mind, at least our local community. We're getting some traction through word of mouth. So we're starting to see, especially on the cider side, like friends of friends of friends. And so that's actually really exciting to see basically the spread. So you send it to your buddy, and then they send it to all your friends, and then eventually you start realizing that it's like somewhere 5 or 6 consumers down the line. It's like, oh wow, that came from one spot. But as I said, the cider side of it, there's just so much competition out there. So it's a bit of a struggle to try to basically be on the top of people's minds. Um, we do have a rather robust pick your own operation at the main farm. And so we expect, or not expect, but we're really hoping that as consumers come, starting in, this summer to pick like summer berries, and then into apple season, they'll kind of remember their experience. And as we, if we can sample products, um, don't know due to COVID restrictions, but we're hoping for repeat customers. Um, Another yeah, 750s were mentioned by Leaf, and I'm when I first started back in 2017 at Champlain Orchards, we had a mixed program of glass and glass 750s and cans, and the cans completely won out just due to market pressure. Um, but we're hoping to bring, at least I'm hoping to bring back the 750 bottles that we can, sell online and also through our farm market. So.
Awesome. That's great. And we did have a question for you on your experience with Vino Shipper. Could you elaborate on that?
So we launched or started talking to Vino Shipper a few months before we officially launched. They charge a small fee for using their permits, and so how it works is you basically borrow their alcohol shipping permits in various states where you don't actually physically have one. And I think if you use their permits and just launch from like day one, it gives you 30 plus states. I'm not entirely sure, but it's a pretty significant portion of the U.S. You are required to get a shipping permit in your home state, but otherwise, it's allowed us to, as I said before, reach places that we wouldn't normally have because we don't have any kind of presence outside of the Northeast. So.
Awesome. It's great to hear. All right. Well, we'll go over to Leaf for this one. What have you learned about selling online over the past year? Any tips or tricks or advice for your peers?
Well, of course, last year was quite a game changer for online sales. Before that, I think we started selling online in 2018, and we use Vino Shipper as well. And it was just a very small chunk of our sales, not really very much, but definitely last year changed quite a lot. We saw a huge spike in sales through Vino Shipper. We also have a cider club, which is cider and mead club, and that's been really good. And we saw a lot of growth in that last year as well. And it actually every year that we've been selling online, we've just seen a lot of growth. So it started off being something like, is this even worthwhile? And now it's like, oh yeah, it's worthwhile. And in COVID times too, we were doing a lot of, in addition to Vino Shipper, selling through various sort of pickup places so people could order online and to go. So 2020 really changed things. There was a lot more people ordering stuff for home because everyone's stuck at home. And it's going to be interesting to see if that, after COVID, if people have gotten maybe more used to ordering stuff online, if that's going to continue to grow. But it's been overall a good experience. Vino Shipper is a really good way to get into that market without having to have licenses everywhere to ship everywhere. The laws can get very, very complicated. So Vino Shipper kind of takes care of that.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see as the years go on, kind of how the online presence keeps continuing to grow. Because I personally just kind of see it keep growing and growing. So and it allows for other people outside of the state that they're in to try other ciders as well.
Yeah, that's actually been a huge thing too, because as you say, people who aren't in our distribution area, or what we find is a lot of tourists who come through, and they try our cider and they're like, oh, how do we get it? It's like, well, you can go online, and so that's been a big part of that growth too, actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, we'll go over to Thomas for this one. How does marketing play into your sales strategy?
Sure. We kind of, when we started this, we had, of course, we knew we were going to have to market to some degree, but when we were writing our business plan, we thought we could spend money on marketing. Of course, lots of money. And I hate to say marketing always to me is just a giant money shredder, because you never know what's going to work and what isn't. And or our option that we sort of went with was we wanted to create a destination that sold itself. And we were like, the best marketing is always word of mouth. And so we put our energies into creating a very unique destination that people would go home and have to tell their friends about. And so that was sort of the business plan we wrote. So when we went to build Spirit Tree, we actually went down the journey of environmentally friendly, low impact, renewable resources. So the whole facility is actually a straw bale building. It's a straw bale construction, geothermal heating, cooling. Any juice treatment, we use UV technology. Cider, everybody's, I'm sure, aware of Cider out of Rochester, New York. So we went down that journey, and then we made sure we promoted that story. And from day one, it actually shocked us how well it worked. That people on our grand opening were coming back the next weekend, and they brought all their neighbors, and it worked brilliantly. It really shocked us how well it worked. And we have a very loyal fan base, and which is all, again, great to see when you've done that. People are kind of believing in what you're doing. It's hard, it's challenging. Like, we have to, my staff always has to be on. They have to know the products, and our customers, they punish them if they don't know the product. And so we run into that, but that's worked really well for us. We do social media, of course. We do a little tiny bit of print media. Print media has really died in the last, 10, 15 years. And our social media, went from, putting out some Twitters and having a Facebook page, and suddenly you had all these different channels, and suddenly we're like, okay, we need to write a marketing strategy for our social media channels. And I had to hire someone in and to manage that. But that's really worked for us. And I'd say the only other one is seasonals. We like to experiment early on. We ran our cidery like a craft brewery. We were constantly putting out unique things, and we found that kept us relevant. So we now have seasonal releases, as well as our core brand of ciders. We have our estate products that are only fruit from here. A lot of them are macerated, and then they're all bottled. As other panelists are talking about, we're either in the cans or in the 750 ml bottle. We transitioned just a year ago to that. We were into all sorts of different packages, and it was turning into a nightmare. So we wrote a packaging policy. Everybody's shaking their head. Yeah, you can shred money on that too. Packaging, gotta love it. So cans are our core product. All our estate products are in 750 ml with cork and wire. And then we're just actually doing some rebranding on our labels this year. And so we keep that focused in doing those seasonals and sometimes special releases. We just did, I guess the third thing is we do specialty dinners where we either host with other chefs or our chef in-house, and we do a 4-course, 5-course dinner. We call it a Cider Masters dinner. And we'll do pairings with each course, a type of cider. We'll sometimes bring in another cidery as a guest cidery or a brewery, and people really love that. We just did a Spanish one. Of course, we had to do it virtual. Pivot again. So it was actually pickup. We had everyone pick up a 4-course Spanish dinner, and we made a Spanish cider. And so we went through and we shot video of that, so everyone could watch the videos and then eat each course with their food and cider. The Spanish theme, of course, is for the Spanish influenza. We thought let's keep this pandemic thing going. So we thought, okay, 100 years ago was the Spanish influenza. So we did a Spanish dinner and a Spanish cider to cure COVID.
We need to spread it out throughout the world, so everywhere else. So
That's right.
let's get back to at least somewhat normal, hopefully. Awesome. Well, we did have a question that came in for Leaf, but I'll open it up for anybody else to answer as well. Question was, we offer our cider on draft, 750 milliliters, 12-ounce cans, and 16-ounce cans. Obviously, cans have been very popular in 2020, but the profit margin, as mentioned before, are low. What do you guys think is a good price on the shelf at a big box store for a premium cider?
I think it's going to depend a lot on your region. I think different areas of the country, certainly in the United States, are vastly different. You know what the expectation of cider is. So it's a hard question to answer with exact numbers. I mean, the best thing to do is to kind of go to some stores and see what other people are charging that are making something similar, if that exists. I know when we started, really the only thing available was the sort of mass-produced commercial cider. That was really all that was available. So we didn't have any starting point to go from. But you know, I think don't be afraid to be more expensive than those, certainly, because it's very hard to compete. And we just didn't even try to compete with you know, some of the very, very mass-produced ciders out there. But you still have to find, you know, a middle ground. That's I would say start high. You can always lower your price, but it's hard to go up.
That's what we said too. We wanted to shoot high because it's easy to go down. No one ever, you know, if you undershoot, it's always hard to go up. We found, yeah, there's a real ceiling on cans. It's killer. So we've tried to adjust our recipes. We don't want to adjust our quality, but at the same time, we had to tweak things to maintain profitability. But when we looked at this, and I think it was the Baltimore CiderCon, there was some conversations about packaging sizes and things. And I remember coming back, and that's when I rewrote our packaging concept. And it was amazing. It was really hard to get over $4 a can for a 16-ounce can, the tall boy. But then I put it in a 750 ml bottle, and I could charge $18. And it blew my mind. And so that's what we did. And we went with this cork and wire concept. We're not using champagne corks. We're just driving normal winery corks and then wiring them. And then when you put them through a tunnel, they actually pop out and mushroom like a champagne cork. And it's been working awesome for us. And yeah, our premium stars, our estate brands, which are all in these 750s, our cheapest was a Spanish Cider. We're selling at $12. And our premium 10th anniversary sells for $24.95 for a 750 ml bottle, which is crazy because, yeah, like if I put that in a can, I couldn't get $4.
That is wild. It's just a simple switch from a can to a bottle, and you can drive up the profit margin just from that.
We put a Cider in a can, and that was somewhat of a mistake. We just recently had a bar return a bunch and said it was all flat and and cloudy. And
Yep.
yes, it is still cloudy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we did have another question come in. Will the panelists talk about who they see as their typical cider drinker? The American Cider Association has data on this, but would like to know your guys' perspective and what they may do that's unique to reach them. You want to start with that one, Jaron?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, who is our typical cider drinker? So for us, we tend to cater towards definitely the craft side, not mass produced at all. A lot of it is mostly pretty split gender wise, at least that what we've noticed at the orchard. But the biggest the biggest consumer we see are the people that come to our orchard. So that's typically young families between 30 and 45-ish. But there's not actually that much difference for us, younger than that or older than that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thomas or Leaf, you want to chime in on that as well?
Well, I think there definitely are a lot of women cider drinkers. Unlike beer, not that there aren't women who like beer. There are plenty of women who like beer, but when we do festivals, the guys who do the festivals are always commenting that like it's just these lines of women with their boyfriends. They're kind of brought their boyfriends along, and what we actually find is that men love it as well, but it especially at festivals, it seems to be women that are kind of bringing men along, and so that definitely we started off with really dark kind of. We have these characters on our packaging. It was very kind of dark, and we're like, this is probably not the best packaging. So we've changed that a little bit over time to kind of fit the demographics a little better. And it's definitely a younger crowd. It's something I really love about cider is that it does appeal to this really broad group of people, and that's exciting.
Yeah, we found the same thing. It's been a real combination. We knew, I'm going to say the M word. I get to be the first one to say the M word. Millennials were, we knew were the core group that was looking for that next big thing, and we definitely get that crowd. But we were surprised how many just general consumers, baby boomers especially, but all spectrums that basically came in and they said, I never knew one. I know beer was kind of filling to me, and wine's too strong, and I just didn't know what it was I was looking for. And apparently it was cider, and I didn't know that. Now I know that, and we've heard that a lot. But a lot of people that are just out to try the experience when they come here. It's amazing how many people want to bring their families. We get, we're a winery technically, cidery, and everyone wants to bring their kid here. So we've got kids running around, and okay, we don't encourage it, but we don't deter it either. And so we have a big picnic area, and people can order flights. We just started again with COVID. We actually put an outdoor bar for social distancing, and our whole picnic area just turned into we called outdoor lounge, and people just at picnic tables with basically the old solo cup of cider, and we couldn't believe how well the bar did every weekend. It blew us away. One person sitting pouring cider all weekend, and it's worked really nicely. But definitely we get different crowds depending on the time of week. But Sundays, and I'm sure this goes for any large city, Toronto, we get a huge influx on a Sunday. I'm sure New York, Seattle, well, any of the large cities do the same thing, but they're a different crowd. They come in on a Sunday. There's usually a group of say 4 to 6 people. They put a credit card down and they say, bring us one of everything on your menu, and bring us 20 flights of cider, and we'll tell you what we want next. And they just consume everything we've got, and then you go home with the cider as well. Sundays are just wild.
I could raise my hand and say I'm guilty of taking my 2.5-year-old to numerous breweries, cideries, and wineries. So I tell them, hey, it's all part of the business. So we did have a couple questions here. Can you mention that cider seems to be big with the gluten-free community as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been huge. 2 of our founders are both gluten-free, and there's this huge market of some people who can't have gluten at all in their diets. Well, I know a number of celiac people, and then there's just the diet of not consuming a lot of gluten, and it's been huge for us because as I say, we live in a town full of breweries, and of course beer has gluten. I mean, you can have gluten-free beers, but most beer has gluten, and it's meant that pretty much all of those breweries need some sort of gluten-free option, and that has been huge for us because all the breweries in town have at least one cider on tap now, many multiple ciders. So the gluten-free thing has definitely been a good thing for cider, I think, in general.
Yeah, we saw the same thing right from the day we opened. Oh, sorry, Jared.
Yeah, go for it.
Right from the day we opened, we hadn't really planned for it, but we quickly had to adjust the menu in a restaurant because it was all vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free people that were coming through the door. So our menu always has to have a large portion. We run what we call a French bistro style restaurant, but we have to always maintain a lot of vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options because that's the crowd we're getting in that want to drink those ciders and have that food. So it's been part of our identity from the start with the restaurant to maintain that. We're tweaking some of our labeling. We didn't really promote that before on our labels, and we're now putting that right on our labels because we get the odd confusion. We make one product we call apple lager. It's a sweet, creamy cider that we're using lager yeast with, and of course everybody thinks it's got beer in it. So we constantly have to tell people, no, there's no gluten in this, and they don't want to believe you because they see the name lager on it. And we also do, we've done for years, we've done a hop cider. And again, there's gluten in that. And it's like, no, it's hops. So we're putting some fairly bold labeling identifiers on our labels that say gluten-free, vegan.
Yeah, what I was going to say is at festivals, it's at the big beer festivals, you'll have many breweries and only a handful of cideries, and so you tend to get to know the gluten-free people pretty well because they keep kind of making the rounds, and it's nice being able to give the option to
Absolutely. That's always great to have multiple options for multiple people as well. We did have a question kind of going back to our talk on the kids and family. Do you guys see setting up a kids zone, family zone in the tasting room or the outside area as a good strategy, or do you think it will annoy the non-kid customers that you have? Is there a specific balance that you guys try to strike?
We have a lot of families come with kids. It's more than I thought when we started. I didn't realize we'd have quite some. In fact, I remember having a conversation about putting a changing table in the bathroom. It's like, nah, we don't need a changing table in the bathroom. And then I had a kid, and I put a changing table in the bathroom. We get tons and tons of people coming with their families, little kiddos. In fact, we have all sorts of we have these nooks in our cidery that it used to be a carpet warehouse. It's got all these rooms, and so we put all sorts of games in all the rooms, and so people come and with their families a lot, and I really like that about this. It doesn't have a bar feel. It's definitely a family kind of thing, and our downtown tap room, which is a restaurant as well, definitely kind of has that going on as well. It's nice.
You want to take it, Jared?
Well, so in Vermont, due to various permitting issues, we're a manufacturer, so we're not allowed to have a formal tap room, but we are allowed to pour tastes in obviously non-COVID times. But it is one of our owners' goals to basically build out a little tap room, restaurant, and have more of that family experience where you can go pick your fruit in the afternoon and then come back and have a pint, or vice versa, or the kids then go off to pick, and whoever stays back can just stay at base camp and wait. So that's definitely in our plan, is to be, we're already family friendly, and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah, we did that too. When we started this, we're like, okay, we're going to be in an alcohol sector. We actually came from a pick your own farm before. So we did the whole kid thing and straw jumps and, you know, all that stuff. And then we were doing this. All right, we're doing alcohol. This is, you know, adult kids, you know, drinking their alcohol juicy. And then all these people showed up with their kids, and we were like, what's going on here? And it's hard because we have change tables in the bathrooms, and we do offer a coloring sheet, you know, to keep the kids occupied. Nothing worse than mom and dad trying to eat and the kids are just losing it. So we have these coloring sheets and some crayons at the hostess station, but we try to discourage it. We're not going to add to that, but it's amazing. So we have the indoor dining, which we got rid of during COVID. We had to just build our store out into the indoor. We just blew out our indoor dining, and it's now part of the store. And we just have our outdoor dining. So there's a large porch and a tented area on a patio. And ironically, it overlooks this stormwater pond beside the building. And most of the time, the parents are having you know, basically pate and bread and some ciders, and the kids are just running around the pond catching frogs and having the time of their lives. And it's clean, you know, it's probably the cleanest, healthiest fun they've ever had. And they'll spend the whole afternoon doing that. Mom and dad are happy. They're watching the kids. The kids are mucking around. And it works. It's crazy, but it works.
I know from experience, you got to get your kid outside, and then they can keep entertained for hours as long as you get them away from the tablet, the TV, and get them out in a nature setting. All right, awesome. We'll go back. Send this one over to Leaf. What creative ways have you found to reach new customers?
Well, I mean, the last year has been weird. You know, pre-COVID, well, during COVID, you know, we had to rely a lot more on social media. I mean, we've always had social media, but you know, we're kind of limited to it now. We started doing a lot of videos. We found like videos were a really good way to kind of engage with people remotely. And so we do a lot of kind of videos about product releases and things. But you know, in non-COVID times, the thing that really kind of sells us best is if we can get people to taste our product, because, you know, as I say, we can't really compete on price with a lot of the bigger cideries, but we can compete on tastes, you know. So you know, a lot of people are like, why are you more expensive? And then if our salespeople can go around or we do a lot of festivals as well, but if we can get people to try our cider, that's kind of when they have sort of an aha moment of like, oh, this really is different than other stuff. And that's really what we found is the biggest selling point, whether that's at festivals to individual people or going to restaurants and bars and tasting with them. That has by far been the biggest sales strategy that we have that's worked the best.
Awesome. We did have a question come in. While package may have lower margins, and it's really only been the only way to sell the product over the past 12 months, doesn't the increased volume and the lack of having a proven marketing support, such as tap handles, glassware, POS materials, make up for the lower margins?
Somewhat. They are much lower margins. So it's you know, I mean, this has been a good test year because, you know, we went from probably 50% draft to I don't know, 20 maybe percent over the last year. And strangely, we also bought a canning line right at the beginning of COVID. Like we switched to cans completely in the middle of all this. So that's been weird. But you know, so package sales exploded this year or last year. And yeah, so that has been a good test to see if we can survive on package sales alone, and you know, we have. So it definitely can be done, but the margins are small, and I definitely encourage, if you're going to do package, to really look at the whole cost and really work out those prices. Because I know we introduced some products, and when we kind of went back, we're like, well, we're not actually making any money, or we're actually losing money once you've worked everything out, all your overhead worked in and everything. It's a tricky proposition, and I have no idea. You know, where we are locally, there's people selling 4 packs of 16-ounce cans for $6, and I don't know how you do that. But we can't even remotely come close to that. But what we found is we have our main products, which we sell a lot of, and they're they kind of compete in the market. They're still a little higher, but we also have sort of seasonal releases and specialty releases, and those are much more expensive and still seem to sell all right. So yeah, this has been a good year to see if package works, and so far it's done well. Although I am looking forward to draft coming back.
It will be nice once draft can get back. That is. All right, well, we'll go over to Jaron for this one. What technology software helps you guys run your business more efficiently?
So, since we are a conglomerate, multiple departments, a lot of variation in what people need or what various departments need. We have QuickBooks to kind of cover the general accounting for the company. Ekos is what I use for production and traceability and TTB reporting. It's the best, like literally the best. It saved me so much time. But then our sales team uses LilyPad just to kind of have keep track of account visits and account information. And then we also use VIP. So sounds like a lot, and it is. So VIP is Vermont, I think, information processing or something along those lines. Anyways, it allows us to keep track of what is in distributors' inventories and fairly current sales. As I was saying, it sounds like a lot, and it is. And we were definitely on the Excel sheet game like 2-3 years ago, and so we just signed up for everything. And now we're slowly, as things have tested and worked out, we're slowly bringing it down and finding like what actually works for us. And so far, the two big key things for the hard cider or cider department is Ekos and VIP have been really key for my position.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to kind of get all the technology together and get everything under one roof. So, all right, we did have a question come in, and I guess this would apply for people that are canning. Do you use or have you used a mobile canning company before? Or if you do own your own machine, and if you own your own machine, what type is that?
We started off mobile canning. We had a bottling line, have a bottling line still. We don't use it anymore. We have one. And we did everything in bottles. And then we released a couple products that we wanted to be in cans. So we started using a mobile canner, and they sold really well. And people just kept saying, we want cans, we want cans, we want cans. And eventually we ordered a canning line in, I don't know, November of 2019. And of course it showed up in March, right when everything went crazy. Ours is an alpha canning line. We really like it. It's a really nice system. It's very well thought through. The mobile canner was using Wild Goose, which also seems like a great canning line. But I really do like the alpha. There's a number of things that just seem like they really thought some things through, like the ability to have this great cartridge thing where all the ends are in this 4 cartridge thing, and you load 2 and it swivels so you can load the other 2 and never stop. Anyway, just things like that. So we really like it, and it's definitely nice not having to rely on a mobile canner. You can't be very flexible when you have to schedule out quite a ways. And of course, can shortage, which was also hit this year, which was a huge thing. We had truckloads of cans that I just got calls saying, they're not sending anything to you. I was like, what? So we did find cans, but there was some scary moments.
It's always nice to have the flexibility of your own system, and yeah, that canning short it's still going on, but yeah, that's kind of it was a big shock that came to everybody. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we can. I'll open this last question to everybody here. We'll start with Thomas, and then we'll go to Jaron, and then Leap. What are the biggest challenges ahead for your cidery, and how are you preparing for them?
Yeah, well, I guess start with packaging. Like I said, we're in the middle of doing a package renewal. Again, it just seems packaging is just nonstop. By the time I had all this other strategy figured out, I realized the current kind of style we had was getting kind of dated. The stuff was anywhere between, it was probably, most of it was like 8 years old, 9 years old, and getting a bit dated. And we had a couple of quotes from the previous company that did work for us, and always kind of shocking some of the quotes we were getting. And then ironically, COVID created a solution. We were back to market. We were trying to come up with ideas last spring to maintain engagement with our customers, and we knew everyone's sitting at home basically watching Netflix, gorging on Netflix. So we were launching our summers. We were going to do a summer cider, a peach pear, and so we had a contest to basically design a label for us. So we told them what the cider was, and we set a deadline, and at first a few trickled in, and then of course the last day of the deadline, it just was like a fire hose. We couldn't believe, right up to midnight they were just hammering in. So we ended up with actually I think 100 entries for this contest. So my social media manager and my sales manager, we kind of put them all out, and then we started grouping them kind of not even close to like, oh my God, this is amazing. And we ended up picking a winner that we announced, and they got a free case of cider. And then we had our printer do these labels to run in time for our summer release. By accident out of that, we got some great publicity, and we announced the winner and the whole thing. But by accident, we were kept pulling these ones aside, going, well, this would make an excellent estate cider label, and this one would be really good for our core brand. So we actually reached out to the sort of the second and third place winners and said, would you like to do work for us? And that's what we're currently doing right now, is we're engaged with actually people that didn't win, but we hired them to do the design work for our core brand and our estate brand. And I'm literally, before this call, I was actually vetting the first iterations of those labels that I've sent back for redo. And so we're launching new labels this year, and we did it for basically hiring a couple of art students, basically paying them well, but it's way within our budget. It was amazing, and they gave us a lot of ideas coming in running that one contest.
That's awesome to hear. That's great. How about you, Jaron?
So the company rebranded in 2019, and so we're still in the process of, to some degree, getting everything, basically the message out, the brand to some degree out, and kind of building this unified brand. One of the biggest challenges facing us this year as an orchard-based cidery, we get 100%. We use only fruit that we grow. And last year was a drought. And so we had record sales in, package sales in due to COVID, with very little fruit coming in over basically with a very low harvest. And so for us personally, it's going to be a little tight this year, but we're already in the process of expanding acreage. We're planting some really exciting new cider varieties, and hoping for a better harvest in 2021. So
2021 has to be better than 2020, hopefully.
yes.
Knocking on wood, it better be. So.
Yeah.
How about you, Lee?
Well, a big challenge for us was, we launched a restaurant sort of right before COVID. It's sort of a very high end restaurant downtown, and transitioning, that space into probably it's not going to be a restaurant at this point going forward. It's going to be a tap room, and figuring that out is definitely a challenge. We're actually also opening a third tap room, which got put on hold. So figuring that out as well, what to do with that space. It's been such an unpredictable time, so it's so hard to plan. Not knowing what's coming. We're sort of assuming things are going to go back to normal, but at some point, and even that is going to be an interesting thing. How do we transition back into doing kegs and reestablishing all those relationships with places that have been closed? And we had a sales team that we basically we brought everyone else back, but our sales team has. Most of them have still been working here, but they've been working on the bottling line or canning line. So, transitioning back to actually having people going out and doing sales and figuring out what that looks like. Yeah, it's definitely we're definitely in interesting times.
Interesting times indeed, but I know I can speak from experience. I'm ready to get back on the road, and I'm sure your sales team is as well. So it'll be nice to get that face-to-face interaction again. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining the panel today. We really appreciate it. We had great conversation. I want to thank all the attendees as well. They had great questions for you guys. We're going to conclude tomorrow with our accounting portion. So if you'd like to register for that, go to goecos.com and you'll be able to register that. Again, thank the panelists, thank everybody for attending, and hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.